and Blown for Good, Behind the Iron Curtain of Scientology. And it might get a little festive here coming up. So, Jason, I'm going to ask you as you're listening on hold. This is not a debate show, so, just keep it conversational, and we're good with Mark Headley coming up next on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett. If you missed it earlier, I put up on the blog some thoughts on the new movie 2012, which just opened up this weekend. It's been a kind of a recurring theme on Coast to Coast, and there's a big nod to Coast in the way in which the movie tells the story of the near coming apocalypse. Mark Headley, author of Blown for Good. Is there any kind of showdown like that coming up in the near future, 2012, in a Scientologist viewpoint?
I don't know about that. I know that when Y2K happened, we had to store up enough supplies and food and other things to last several years in the case that there was a disaster or something happened and
right.
It came and went, and we had to reset the clocks on a few computers. So
let me ask you about radical Scientology. Are there splinter groups within Scientology like there is in almost every religion, where there are people who go fundamentalist and other people who say, well, they're not getting it right according to the founders, and then they start another sort of competing Scientology? Is there a lot of that?
Oh, very much so, very much so. There's there's a lot of people that right now that have been involved with Scientology for years, and they basically don't like the direction that the organization is going in, and they hear about the beatings and they hear about the abuse, and a lot of these people are firsthand witnesses to all this stuff taking place, and they do wholeheartedly believe that there is some workable things to some of the parts of the philosophy, and they basically do it on their own as a renegade activity. But there's a lot of that, and more so in the last 5 years. There's more and more centers and the different groups opening up all over the world that are basically doing their own thing.
Tom's been waiting the longest, and then we'll get to Jason from Florida, who said he was your supervisor. Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Hi, you've been on for a while, so thanks for hanging on. You're talking to Mark Headley.
Sure. I just want to make some comments here about I did some work when I was still in Scientology. I was in for about 28 years for the Guardian Office and later the Office of Special Affairs. And I can just tell you that they will do whatever they think they can get away with, which includes crimes and lying, things like vehicular battery and theft, which they inflicted on Mark Headley. And I also, when I was doing OSA work in the early 90s, there was talk by the people who were working with me in OSA about John Cole and Greta Van Susteren. Greta Van Susteren is a Fox News. I think she's on another network now. I think she's on CNN.
She's on Fox News, and she's an anchor.
She's a Fox News commentator. John Cole's her husband, who is a retired attorney. The talk was that they influenced the Clinton administration to push to the settlement with the IRS and obtain the tax-exempt status for organized Scientology. And because Scientology lost its tax-exempt status in 1967 because the IRS determined that it was not operating as a charitable religious organization. It was de facto operating as a unethical business.
Well, another person involved in that is, wasn't that the guy Marty Rathbun who left? He was the guy who was like the head counsel who left and is now speaking out against Scientology. Well, that brings us to thank you, Tom, for this comment. Jason is the guy who says that he was your former supervisor. Mark Headley, Jason, Mark Headley.
Yeah, hi, Jason.
How are you?
Been a long time.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I guess really, Mark, it's actually good to talk to you. I hear your business is doing well and things are going well for you. I haven't been in the church for a while. I guess really the thing for me that I find difficult to really digest is the credibility of a lot of the information. Like, it's very hard to go through. I've been listening to the show and just pick out many details. I guess I'll have to get the book really and get a better understanding. But
yeah, you should get the book because you're in it in about 4 places.
Okay, well, that's
including
good
the time when I was working in tapes and I screwed up and there was a technical error on one of the cassettes that I passed, and you threatened threatened me with a suppressive person declare, and that is actually the time period I was talking about earlier in the show when I tried to get out of there, and I was told by security that I wasn't going to be able to talk to my parents, and so yeah, you should definitely get the book because you're in it in about 4 or 5 different places.
Jason,
Okay,
you
I guess a lot of the, like, for example, I mean, Ian, just to state a couple things, right?
Okay.
A lot of this, there's a big twist or a bit of a spin, I should say, put on a lot of this. Like, for example, the 6-foot-high fences, I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, when you've got millions of dollars of studio equipment, it's kind of silly not to make sure you're being taken care of in terms of securing the property.
Well, right now, I live.
Wait, Mark.
I live right next to Warner Brothers, NBC, CBS, Universal Studios, all big-time studios. Not one of them has razor barbed wire and the amount of cameras that exist at Golden Arrow Productions. They also don't have guards roaming the property all over the place like Scientology does. And they also don't have cameras that face at the roads to record license plates of people that stop and take pictures. They don't have security guards.
Well, I mean, the Universal lot, I can tell you right away, the Sony lot alone has a gated entrance. You have to have security access. There's 37 security staff that work on the property. There are cameras all over the place. I don't know the last time you were at Sony Pictures. I mean, there is so much high security with the equipment, the personnel, the amount of celebrities coming through. It'd be ridiculous not to invest that in, which is such a small amount compared to the studios itself.
Okay,
Well, let me ask you a question, Jason. Honestly, he brought up a good point. So, but no razor wire around Warner Brothers or Sony or, right?
Well, you don't really need razor wire when you've got, like, huge walls and buildings and gated entrances where you can't even get in there to places like Fort Knox. You can't just walk in the studio. You're out there on a property that's out in the middle of nowhere, like dozens and dozens of miles. There's nothing around. I mean, the whole property is exposed. Yet these studios are completely surrounded by other buildings, other commercial facilities. It's not like you can just come up at any particular time of day because you're in the middle of the city. You're not in the middle of the city in the studio out there. Mark's aware of that. He's the one who even helped acquire a lot of the equipment that's in those studios. So he's very familiar with the value of what we're talking here. So let's not play games with the
Well, I get another question. I think that you bring up an interesting point. That's fine. I'll get real about it because I work in the media, so I'm around TV studios and radio studios. I'm around that sort of stuff.
I mean,
all the time.
Ian, what if you're
wait, Jason, I got a question. If you jumped over,
any way to protect
come on, Jason, hang on. Protect the equipment is exactly my question. So honestly, here's my question for you about the razor wire. So let's say you jump over a fence and you go steal a very expensive Avid digital editing workstation. Mm-hmm. How are you supposed to get it over the fence? How does the razor wire keep you from getting it over the fence?
Well, the idea is that you don't even climb over the fence to get in anyway.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. The idea is that you do not climb over the fence. That goes both ways. So, but I just want to make something very clear so that we don't get any, there's no bull here on the line. Jason himself was physically attacked by David Miscavige, and there's actually a guy who recently came out. His name is Eric Knudsen, who witnessed David Miscavige physically attack Jason Bennick.
Okay,
I myself have witnessed Jason.
If I'm the person involved, I'd like to make a statement.
Yeah,
I provided a very...
Jason Bennick has declared in an actual declaration that David Miscavige, he witnessed David Miscavige never hit anybody or never, raised his voice, and that basically all of these things that are happening there never happened, even though there's people that witnessed Jason present at many of these meetings, and we absolutely know that some of these things happened to Jason because Jason himself was assigned to the RPF,
well,
and the fact that Jason...
Mark. All right, Mark. I want to hear... Mark,
if I'm the person... Hold on, Ian. If I'm the person alleged in this discussion, let me tell you what occurred. First of all, the waiver that I provided in the affidavit clearly states that I've never witnessed, ever, or experienced any physical harm or damage that's come as a result of any discussion, altercation, meeting with him or whatever. And it's just never happened. I've never physically been harmed whatsoever. Secondly, the other factor on this is that, like, I worked at that place pretty much since we bought the property, long before Mark even came there. My familiarity with what's gone on is pretty detailed. Another factor I want to bring up is that Mark, and he knows this, and we actually got along quite well when he worked there, he definitely, without question, and I can state this clearly, as fact, and he's going to have to agree with this,